When I started this, I was like everybody else. I thought band comes in and sets up and you make a record. You press record and the magic happens. But it wasn't like that. It was a very separate process.
Welcome to the Etowah Valley.
You're listening to Etowah Valley Recordings, conversations and music from the Etowah Valley and neighboring Georgia towns.
Hello, this is Christopher Allen Yates. Welcome to another edition of Etowah Valley Recordings podcast. Today I'm bringing the Etowah Valley to Norcross and to the world-famous Tree Sound. I'm very excited about this episode's guest. We have with us today one of Atlanta's greatest artists you may or may not ever have heard of. His name is Mr. Shawn Grove, and in addition to being someone I'm proud to call a friend and a mentor, he's a producer, he's an engineer, a songwriter, and he's been a wizard behind the scenes on so much of the music that's come out of Atlanta, Georgia in the last couple of decades. He's worked with too many successful and well-known artists to list, but you'll get to hear about some of the work he's been involved with over the years, and he's currently performing, writing, and recording with The Ever After, and you'll get to hear some of that music sprinkled throughout the interview. So, Shawn, let's just dive right in and tell us what you are working on here at Tree Sound today.
I'm here mixing Collective Soul record number 10.
Nice.
It's going to be entitled Blood.
And you didn't track this here. Tell us about the process a little bit.
Let me think. Oh, yeah, we went to a place in New Jersey called Barbershop Studios. That was on suggestion from the famed John Oliva, guitar tech extraordinaire. And went up there for, I think it was a little 2-week run. And Ed pretty much presented his songs to the fellas. They hadn't really heard it before, and definitely made some magic happen. Came out of there with, at least 10 songs in a 2-week period, all played together, just like you're supposed to.
Where was that again? Where did you guys
Barbershop Studios. Everything came out really nice. It had good energy. The guys were playing really well together. I think it was really cool to watch.
What about after you guys had that core part of it done? Did it come back to Ed's studio in Sandy Springs?
It did. That's pretty much standard. He has the place set up for recording. He's got some tie lines going to some different rooms, piano room, got a vocal booth, moved some couches out of the way to do drums and stuff, which we have done there multiple times.
You just had some friends come by and do a few things. I got to sing on it a little bit. We were just listening to...
That's right. Little Christopher Allen Yates on BGVs.
Yep. And there's probably some other people we've heard of who guest appeared on the record a little bit. Is that?
Yep. Some more Atlanteans. Mr. Peter Stroud, guitar player extraordinaire.
Any other guest vocal BGVs?
Well, I make an appearance on
Of
there.
course. Gotta have the golden throat. Here Shawn is singing some BGVs, or more commonly known background vocals, with the group he's been writing and performing with, and they are called The Ever After.
You know there's only one thing to do, my sweet doll, baby, baby. You know I got my all you. I can see you shine a light. You know there's only one thing to do, my sweet doll, baby, baby.
What year did you come to Atlanta?
96.
And you came from Baltimore?
I lived in a small town called Northeast Maryland. That was the name of it, Northeast.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and how it related to you coming into this business when you were a kid. What was your exposure to music and your background with all that?
My pop played keyboards in a band called Grover and the Greasers. They did like a Sha Na Na style 50s, tribute, I guess you would call it. The full dress up, the whole nine. They had a kind of a cool little skit where they would actually play a set as a regular band. They were called Farce. And it would be your top 40 hits. And then Grover and the Greasers would come out. But it was still the same guys, just changed their clothes.
Right.
But no, it was really cool. And I actually did play with them for a short amount of time. I play a little bit of keyboards and guitar. And
With the Greasers?
So at the age of 15, I was in the clubs, jamming with the Greasers. But
Nice.
so I played up, through high school and was in some bands, trying to do the thing. And when I started recording demos with different bands, with me playing, I started to see like between 3 or 4 studios and the product that I got. The best product I got was in a guy's garage. He had a small studio in his garage, and I hardly had any gear whatsoever. I mean, he recorded drums with no overheads, but when it came out, it was perfect. It sounded so good. That's when I kind of realized, it's got a lot to do with the guy sitting there.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was the gear. I mean, you come into these studios and it's the best of the best.
Right.
And it does make a difference. It definitely does. Over the years, you hear them, and there's a reason why they keep these certain pieces in these great studios. I mean, they sound wonderful, but there's definitely a little art to the recording process, and that's one thing. And then mixing is kind of its own art as well.
So you had this epiphany in the garage that you had this good product that came out of there.
Epiphany in the Garage. That's
Yeah.
the new record title.
And so where did that lead you from there?
I took a year course there at Omega Recording Studios. It was a full recording studio facility. They had 4 rooms in there, but they offered the courses on engineering. Right after I finished that, I came down here to Atlanta. I had family that lived down here for some years, so I had been coming to Atlanta since I was 16 years old. As soon as I got my license, I came down to visit them, and I always liked this place. Said, yeah, I'm going to end up moving there, eventually. And then as soon as I got into the engineering, I was like, man, I got to go down there. I mean, it's a bit bigger city, and I just lucked into being at the right place at the right time. I worked at a studio called Purple Dragon Recording, and I just came down and,
Just saw an opening somewhere?
I looked around at where the studios were. I did a little bit of, research. It wasn't Google maybe at that point, but not like now. But I went down, just to try it out for an internship. And I got in there. And then 2 weeks later, the engineer left. I don't really know what happened. He was just, he was out of there. And, I went to the owner. I was like, I know I'm brand new and out of school, but give me a shot, So he did. And I was immediately working on major labels stuff. I mean, Atlanta's always been, well, from then, I don't know about prior, but, the hip-hop scene was really starting to explode. So, I mean, I was in there with Outkast and the Goody Mob crew and Organized Noise from day one. I was recording that stuff, yeah. So it was, into the fire. Mm-hmm. But it was wonderful. I mean, all those guys were super talented and super cool, and made some great music. I mean, they did so many records down there.
Mm. How did you end up here at Tree? I know you said you couldn't remember. We were talking earlier.
I know. We were talking earlier, and I can't remember who told me about this place, but it was brand new. Actually, when I got in here, only the control room was done, and Neil Pogue was mixing Pink's debut record in here, and even the tracking room out here was not done yet. But right after that, I mean, this is a world-class facility. Mm-hmm. So, like I was telling you, there was some other studios in the town, but this was the big new joint. I mean, I was lucky enough to get in early on, and then I, again, continued to just work on more major label records. It's really been pretty awesome.
You've done so many different types of music, too. You've been involved with a lot of different stuff. You mentioned the Outkast stuff and the hip-hop stuff that you've done. Jermaine Dupri was working over here at Tree a lot, so you worked in the studio with those guys a lot.
Yep, there was a Phil Tan mixing a lot of stuff for him. And there was, the Brat going on up here, and Usher was going on up here, and what else? Those were the main ones that I remember. But also there was some rock stuff happening too, so I was excited to, get to learn how to record drums, guitars. We did a little bit of that down there. They did use live musicians a lot. So that was cool. It was just, a different type of music.
One time you were telling me, and I think this might have been over at Stankonia. Did you work over at Stankonia, or did you?
No.
It was all over at Purple Dragon.
It was at Purple Dragon
With
and
those
here
guys.
also.
Okay,
They
maybe it
came
was
up here also, yeah.
But you were telling me about the process a little bit, how they would create songs, and you were saying they would have a guy sit there all night sampling through old records.
Yep.
Talk about that just a little bit. That was really interesting.
Well, I don't know if I can give away the secret or whatever.
Okay,
but,
okay. Well,
I mean, it's...
the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
was just a joke. I mean, it's talented guys, making great music.
Yeah.
So that's the secret if anybody really wants to know it.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
But it was an interesting process because, the crates of records and just trying to, I don't know exactly what would be the inspiration to keep this one little piece.
Nugget.
And it might just be some was hornline stuff. Years after that, the sampling would become part of the song. They take an older song. You hear the main riff.
Right.
Okay, well, this was, I want to say a little bit before that was happening, but there was sampling going on, but very, very small piece. Might be a little vocal line or something. And it would just loop that sample, record it into the MPC and loop that sample, and then have the musicians come in and actually play to the piece. So they were all kind of, bass guy, okay, this bass line will work, and
right.
Keyboard player, okay, this fits in there. And they'd all get to jamming. Of course, they would program, some hip-hop, really banging drums over top. So it really would form. It sounded great, but then they would take that sample out. Mm-hmm. And just with that one small piece that was in there that started it, that being gone, it sounded like it was a whole other song. A whole other song.
Awesome.
That had nothing to do really with, no one was following the line. They were building upon the line. And it was really cool to see it.
You've been listening to Etowah Valley Recordings podcast produced in beautiful, historic downtown Cartersville, Georgia. Thanks to our special guest, Shawn Grove. You can find us on iTunes, or you can find us at EtowahValleyRecordings.com.